city.
I'll call the meeting to order. We all stand, face the flag, put your hands over your heart. Say the pledge of allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sonia, would you take roll call, please?
Yeah, Commissioner Digital,
Here.
Commissioner Wire,
Here.
Commissioner Corbin,
Here.
Commissioner Shaw.
Here.
Mayor Denner,
Here.
Commissioner Fawbush. Here. Commissioner Gross,
Here.
Commissioner Iverson,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Maxwell,
Here.
Commissioner Olson, Commissioner Wolf. Here.
Thank you, Sonia. We have the agenda in front of us. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So. Second.
Is there any further comments or discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Move down into Joint Planning Commission Board of Commissioners. Item number one, I'll open up for a public hearing on the City of Madison's comprehensive land use plan.
Say probably about a month ago, we had a joint meeting with these two boards to go over draft and kind of a presentation of the process for the land use plan. Today, we are looking at the final approval of that. We have Luke Muller from First District Association of Local Governments. Is that the full title? Yeah, I don't even know. Senior planner. That's his title.
You got it memorized.
So he'll present kind of a summary of the process and what we're looking at today.
Thank you, everyone here with the city. Thanks for the time in front of you. Thanks for the opportunity to work with you as well. This is the end of a hopefully a project that we've worked on for several years here. And basically, I'm just going to get into it. We've got a 100-page document here, plus or minus, that I have no intent on reading to you. You don't want it read to you verbatim. It's been online. It's been available. People have had the opportunity to know about it. We've held over a dozen meetings over the past couple of years in the public to review and go over this document and get to where we're at today. So all I really want to point out is that what you've embarked upon and worked on is an important process for the planning of the community. Land use plan is important from a standpoint of laying out both the macro and all the way down to the micro, some of the things to consider as development occurs. And really, this particular plan worked to try to give some guiding principles all the way down to some specifics as far as this part of town developing versus that, as opposed to just working on the outside of town. The land use plans are important, and this process is important from two standpoints. One, just from a conceptual standpoint, it's good to have this discussion about where development's going to occur, what sort of development's necessary, and layout conflicts. But also, it's important because statutorily you need one in order to have zoning. So those two things merge into how you went about it. I kind of laid out the process that we went through, but the Planning Commission met several times dating back to January of 2020 on this to talk about, started with goal statements and reviewed the kind of the goals of development, as well as population and demographics, just kind of where we are, where we're moving to. It was interesting having the census information drop on us and completely change everything that we had talked about and have to review that again. And then a lot of what we spent, though, was on just reviewing areas of town, and I don't want anyone to think that anyone's out there specifically saying that's bad, that's good. But basically what went on was, how is the direction? Is this industrial growth in this area good? Should we move it over to here? And largely, I'm not going to say there were little changes, but the goal wasn't to drastically change how folks are using their property, more or less to try to give people the opportunity to continue to do so, or to make sure that we're providing enough services for those areas is a lot of what came on. That said, it did provide some specific recommendations for certain zoning designations. And also, as we go outside on the fringe of town and develop into there, updated some of those areas. I'll be honest, your previous plan really went out and you had, I think I mapped out. We're over 1,000 acres of development. Fact of the matter is that just isn't going to happen in the next 20 years. I think that even the area we have is probably a little ambitious in some and maybe a little short in some others, but gives us some time. So there are numerous maps, numerous figures in that land use plan. I can talk about them if you want, but again, I'm betting you've had a chance to look at them. So basically, all I really want to get into is what your steps are today and just closing point. Right now, this action today is you're going to have a planning commission recommendation for approval. Hopefully, city commission hopeful action on the plan. If it is approved, then you publish a summary of the plan, and 20 days after that, it becomes effective. Is how that works. Just kind of laying out expectation, probably be around April 8th for publication of summary and then effective date at the end of the month. And last point, I do want to point out, I know it seems silly to adopt something and then talk about changing it, but the bottom line is we got to be honest with ourselves and know that this sort of thing can change. If it's not changing, I worry you're not looking at it. And so the bottom line is if something comes up, not the end of the world, you can go on, you can review it and look at amending it, because let's face it, there might be parts of town that we look at, more information comes up in the future and we say, you know what, it makes more sense for this to be industrial, not residential, or it makes more sense for this to be X and not Y. You have that discussion with that specific area. It's not as bogged down by looking at the whole town, but that one laser focused area. You can make those amendments by doing the same thing you're doing at this meeting tonight. So with that, I will stick around and answer any questions throughout this public hearing. Otherwise, I want to thank you again.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else for a public hearing? Not hearing any, I will close the public hearing on the City of Madison Comprehensive Land Use Plan and go down to item number 2. Planning Commission recommend approval for Board of Commissioners to adopt resolution number 2022-13.
Do I just stand here and address the board or? They're all behind me. They make me nervous back there. So do I need to, just walk me through the process here. Do I need to convene our planning commission? Like, say, we already did the roll call. So what's the process here?
Well, this is a joint meeting, so it's
Okay.
something that we don't go through every day. Since they're separated items here, I think it'd be reasonable if one of your members wanted to make a motion to recommend.
Okay, so just,
do that. Yeah.
okay, we don't need any special.
Yeah. Luke
I'll
might
help
be
you out
next
with that,
one.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, okay,
Basically,
okay.
sorry, that's what I'm here for. I'll be your caddy on this one. So you've already called your roll, so you're to order. All you really need to do is ask for a motion to recommend approval from your board and then discuss and vote.
All right, planning commission, item 2, recommend approval for board of commissioners to adopt resolution number 2022 -13, and we'll need a motion.
Jim Iverson, I move.
We have a second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate with aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Drop down to item 3 after we had the recommendation from the planning commission. Do I have a motion to adopt resolution number 2022-13, comprehensive update to the comprehensive land use plan for the city of Madison?
I'll make the motion. Second.
There any further comments or discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
Thank you all.
Thanks for all your work on
Thanks,
this.
everyone.
Yes.
Thanks a lot.
For the planning commission members, you certainly are welcome to head out if you need to.
Thank you.
Always Stick around too if you'd like.
Not seeing anything under appearances and acknowledgement, we'll move down into consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So move. Second.
All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Move down into unfinished business. Item number 1, second reading ordinance number 1645, electric process fee and after hours fee. James,
As mentioned last week or last meeting, this is just changing terminology with it from disconnects to processing fees and after hours fees. And then setting that fee by resolution. From us.
have a motion on the second reading, number 1645. Electric processing fee and after hours fees.
Second.
Any further comments or discussion? Seeing or hearing any, all in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Item number 2, second reading ordinance number 1646, water process fee and after hours fees.
It is essentially the same thing as the last one, with the exception that it applies to water services instead of electric services. No change from last week. Or last meeting.
Thank you, Sonia. Do you have a motion to approve the second reading ordinance number 1646, water process fee and after hours fees?
Second.
Any further comments or discussion? Hearing any, all in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Last item under unfinished business, second reading ordinance number 1647, authorize the establishment of fees, fines, and penalties by resolution.
This ordinance was presented 2 weeks ago. It just allows us to set those fees by resolution instead of by ordinance. There is one change or amendment to this particular ordinance. It is to amend 6.16.4 to 6.16.6, and that is the building permit fees. With the new ordinance we passed 2 weeks ago, or a couple of weeks ago, on the building permit fees, and moved that down a line item. We just need to amend the number that it's referring to.
Thanks for reining in the chaos.
Sorry. We're double checking this week and on the whole, the number moved.
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 1647. As amended and presented.
A second.
It's clear. Don't even get into the amendment process.
You need us to get in there enough too?
Yeah, if you want to.
Any further comments or discussion? Hearing any, all in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Move down into new business. Item number 1, adopt resolution number 2022-14, business and community development fees.
So I took the, all of the items in the ordinance from that you just approved and broke them out kind of by how they're applied or the areas that they fit. The first one is the business and community development fees. Those are typically your building permits, excavation permits, those types of things. And that's what this resolution does. It replaces what's currently in.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adopt resolution number 2022-14, business and community development fees?
So moved.
Second.
Good luck.
We got a motion and a second. Is there any further comments or discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Item number 2, adopt resolution number 2022-15, public work and utility fees, fines, and penalties.
This is the resolution that lets us do the same thing, sets it by resolution versus ordinance. These are things that are not covered in our rates. Those are a separate ordinance. These are miscellaneous activities. And again, pulled from ordinance. There's not any changes to public works or utility fees at this time.
Make a motion to adopt resolution number 2022-15.
Second.
Any further comments? Discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor? Bye by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Item number 3, adopt resolution number 2022-16, public safety fees, fines, and penalties.
These particular items are primarily focused on penalties and fines that are primarily the police department or violations of some sort. There were a couple of updates to this one. Justin had taken a look at the previous ordinances, and some of them were I'm going to say a little vague, and they were like could charge from $1 to $500. He went through and revised them. Most of them ended up at either $75 or $100 plus court costs. Generally, we don't change fees a whole lot, but court costs can go up, and so that just allows us that flexibility to just whatever that court cost is gets added on.
Thank you, Simon. Do I have a motion to adopt resolution number 2022-16?
Second.
Any further comments? Discussion? Hearing any, all in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Item number 4, authorize the mayor to sign the memorandum of understanding PP6 Madison LLC proposed assistant living property.
Sure, I can introduce this item. In fact, I'll probably have Bobby and Toby if you want to come in, sit at the table. They're here to speak to this item. Bobby works for HME Management, and they engaged us in discussion last summer already about the possibility of constructing a assisted living project. I know they had to kind of take a step back and really look at some changes that have happened within their organization before they came back to us. But over the last month or so, they have re-engaged and are interested in working with the city to construct this assisted living project east of the existing hospital. Toby Morris is with Colliers, and he has been assisting, I guess, both sides with this process. One thing he recommended was before either side gets too far into it, let's draft together a memorandum of understanding to set out what each side is looking for, specifically HME Management. So that before they start looking at permitting and annexations and all those steps, let's see if there's any big hurdles that our group might find insurmountable. If not, we can lay out some of those details and start moving forward. The last thing I'll mention is that for the purposes of their facility in Madison, they must be operating as PP6 Madison.
It'll actually be Heritage Senior Living.
Okay, we
PP6
can
is-
update that.
Yeah,
Okay, to have Heritage Senior Living. So I think I'll turn it over to Bobby to give a background on what they're looking to do here in Madison.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for having us tonight and giving us an opportunity to speak to the council and the commission. As Jameson said, we had our first conversations, I think, a little over a year ago, and I've actually been working with HME development for about 2 years. And my role and capacity there is to work with communities on housing across the state. My home is in Millbank, and so I worked there 10 years prior with the Grand County Development Corporation. So that's how I started. There is not a community across this state right now whose housing is not an issue in some way, shape, or form. I think we've seen a lot about it over the course of this last year, and hopefully the state is starting to realize that housing goes hand in hand with economic development. So as Jameson said, we started about a year ago. I think I had actually reached out to Brooks' predecessor to talk with him about what some of the options might be here in Madison. And these projects don't move fast, as you can well imagine. So it's taken a little time to work through some of the issues and get things figured out. A lot of times, like the question comes up, how did you land on senior living? So senior living, this project will encompass both assisted and independent living. We landed there based on some surveys that we did. We conduct vigorous research to figure out, what's needed in the community, and that encompasses the housing surveys that you all do. And then we also contract with a company called Viewpoint out of Minneapolis to say, what is the market and what does it look like? And then we've also started doing an in-house research where we look at senior living and just look across the state and see what's needed. So what we were able to get to from all of that research is that, as you might well know, senior living is going to be the greatest population across this state in the next 10 years. The age demographic, unfortunately, I'm probably one of those sitting in this room, is going to be a little over 70%. It's going to be in that demographic that's going to be looking for some form of senior housing. When I say that, I like to couch that and say that hopefully that the baby boomers are going to age a little differently than what we used to think of, of our grandparents, where we, so to speak, put them out to pasture. Your turn's coming. But so senior living, we work together. So senior living is changing. And so with that, the way we approach it, the way we look at it is changing. And it's part of what I like to call the housing continuum. So, there's a lot of buzz around workforce housing, first-time home buyers. This piece of housing falls in that housing continuum. I like to say, when you leave your family and you get into college and an apartment, and then you get into that first small home, and then you build up your equity and you get into that next home and you work your way through it. So this is part of that housing continuum. And if you look at that plan, you'll see that we have plans not just for senior living, but some townhomes on the backside of that, which we can call those aging in place. But I think Madison is not unique in its needs in housing, in that a lot of what's going on around here, you will see a high need for this type of housing, whether it's an intern or a professor at the college. You're going to see an influx of people that are looking for maybe a little simpler housing style. So we think we have a well laid out plan. As I said, we've done lots of research over the last year. My first conversations with Brooke and her predecessor were about land and where there were some options. And after some research, that's how we landed on the land that you will see in this packet that I gave you. This packet really just gives you the overview, the size of the project. Currently, it's about a $15 million investment. It will encompass 31 assisted living and 19 IL units. And then that doesn't include the townhomes on the backside of that. We estimate a workforce of approximately about 30 people that will be working full-time there. That will include an administrator, nursing staff on site. It will include maintenance and lawn care and all of those things that go along with a senior living facility to take good care of it. I think in this packet, I've also, our estimate is, and based on other size facilities that we do manage, we're looking at a payroll of just at $1 million during the ramp up and up to about $1.2 million once it hits full occupancy. The land that we're looking at obviously is outside of the city. So if you agree to the MOU so that we can partner to move forward. That next step will then to be to annex that into the city, so it's part of the city. When this project is all said and done, we expect that it will generate somewhere in about, conservatively, probably about $150,000 a year in property tax. We are building a real similar project, I will tell you, in Millbank. It's about a year ahead of you, real similar in size, and I can tell you it's an exciting prospect. So this project accomplishes two things in this community, in that it provides jobs and it also provides housing. I'm not going to lie to you. There's concern about workforce, and as housing is an issue across this state, so is workforce. However, at some point, everybody's gonna have to go back to work. And so we feel like that we are a good company to work for, and that's the way to keep employees, is to be a good employer. So we work on that. We work with colleges, we work with interns. There are several programs out there that help young kids that are going into medical school. We work every angle to make sure that we're partnering in the community. It's our desire to be a good partner. Hold on. Water. So I'll take a breath. Any questions so far? So that gives you kind of an outline of the size and the scope of the project. We are already in Madison. I think we probably all are aware of that we did purchase the Heritage Senior Living facility that's already here. So we're already have purchased that and are managing it. I like to tell people that when we go into a community, we like to find areas where we can continue to grow. So we want to be a good partner in every community that we go into, because as you well know, once you find a good partner, you would like to keep them. So. Questions, thoughts, anyone? So the plans that you have in front of you, we've spent a great deal of time and effort to get this to where it is now. These are the most current architect drawings that you have in front of you.
So first phase would be the assisted living center.
Yes.
Phase two then would be the 10 units behind. that.
Right. Yep.
What's the long range plan of the 10 units? How long out do you suppose that'll be?
Senior living would be the first year, and
Yeah.
we're looking at a 10 to 12 month build out. Our hope is that we can work through this fairly quickly. Like to see dirt turning yet this summer, get that started, and then the next year follow suit with the townhomes. We realize and understand that Madison is a growing, vibrant community. So, it's one of those things where you want to ride the tide while it's there.
And Mayor, as in terms of my role will be on the technical side, has always helped the city in the past with the tips from Randy to the Best Western to the Kelly Nielsen side. So we'll look at it from a very technical standpoint. You probably see that there's language in that MOU that talks about annual appropriation. Again, that refers to the constitutional debt side. We were very fortunate to have leadership from your town here with Senator Crabtree on some of the housing money that will become available. So we'll be looking at trying to maximize that. As any time when you do development, one thing I would ask is just a little fluid of the city. You never know which way things may churn. The rules are still yet to be out for the housing money. One thing that has been clear that we've seen is that they want it as a partnership with the city. So we'll be advising, as I always advised you on the technical standpoints in the past and now going forward, what we may be looking at from peer to help maximize whatever may come out in that. You'll see this TIF is a little bit different than the one in the past, where it's proposed to be a revenue sharing, where that money will then come back to the city, essentially designated to what you have in there at this point in time. But that is an allowable, acceptable use of the TIF. So it's things I've learned over the past 15, 20 years doing these tax increment districts of how to better improve the next one. But most importantly, how to make it as a partnership for both entities to be positive moving forward. And the spirit of the MOU, what I like about that, it's transparent, not only for the city, but for the constituents that are out there saying, hey, this isn't something that was just surprised upon you when a TIF plan comes forward. So it also lets you vet any concerns up front. Mr. Jenks will tell you it's a non-binding letter of commitment, so to speak. And my empathy for you, Mr. Jenks, you lost a bet wearing that shirt, so I can see it's harsh on you. But that's the, the final agreement will be the developer agreement, how everything's spelled out. I would see timing wise, probably, well, the annexation would take place in April, May. The TIF plan come before you June, maybe July. The final rules are set to be out with housing on that first of July is what South Dakota Housing has told me. So just want to be very careful that we don't get ruled out for something that may have started, as we look for direction from here.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to authorize mayor to sign the memorandum of understanding PP6 Addison LLC proposed assistant living property?
Before we make the motion to clarify, instead of PP6, it should be what now?
Well, it's still PP6, but
Okay.
once the signs go up out in front of it, it will be heritage.
Well, understood, yeah.
Yeah.
but- Okay, the entity still.
The entity is still PP6. Yeah.
Yeah.
That does kind of a ring to it,
No comment.
People drive by, I'm like, what happened to that last P?
Turn into a 6.
Sorry. I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any further comments? Discussions?
I would agree with everything that was just said by Mr. Morris, but I do want to point out one thing about this MOU, even though I think it's non-binding. This indicates that the positive tax increments will be split 75-25, 75% to the developer, 25% to the city. And that isn't uncommon, but this MOU also pledges the city to use our tax increment income, all for the road. It's all for the road. So while I don't think this is binding, and I think there's ability to move within the plan as it comes forward, I think the commission needs to think about, is that how you're going to spend your 25%? We know there's a lot of issues with that road. Who owns it? Who takes care of it? Who's going to own it? All of these things, like the description of the road, we don't own all that. So it's just something to be thinking about as you move forward. It's nothing we've got to fix tonight or change tonight. I don't believe we should hold up the MOU tonight. But you need to think about as a commission, if you're going to spend your 25% on that road and that road only. That may have to be clarified. going forward.
And I do appreciate that, because that was gonna be a question, is the 25% allocation to the bypass, due to the fact that we don't own the bypass technically, so.
I can speak towards it a little bit. So this was a discussion that's been ongoing between the developer and the city here in terms of we know that there's a road that has need for more resources to be put into it. And we know there's this project coming to town, which is an opportunity to help be at least one small part of the solution to fix that road. And it would also benefit them as well, as they're gonna have traffic on that road. So at this point, we know that there's a lot of challenges that need to be worked through in terms of the bypass. We know that we have to partner with the county. Really, it's their road, they're in the driver's seat. All we can do is offer to help them, and that's what we're trying to do here. I guess my last note is I had some of the same questions for Toby. Toby, could you speak towards maybe if we had approved a TIF along these lines, what kind of flexibility we'd have in those payments?
You would on the flexibility, you essentially within the codified law, you can charge an administration fee. And so that administration fee then would come back into the general fund of the city, which could then be directed for whatever purpose on that. As having worked with the city and the county, trying to understand that road, it was just more of, is this a partial addressment of what a much larger project's going to be? Absolutely. But Mr. Jenks does point out, and should have been pointed out, that is the intent right now. Ultimately, though, the council has a final decision on it. The main thing I think to see is that there is a revenue sharing agreeable for both the developer and the city. Where that money's directed is still to be determined.
And can be determined. I don't want the commission
Correct.
feeling like if the approval of it tonight would somehow block you.
Thank you.
No, I fully feel like that really needs a tough work, and I've been involved in a lot of those conversations along the way. Obviously, if we continue to develop and develop that south side of the road, that road really is gonna need some attention. And I hope maybe this is one seed in the process that we get that formalized discussion rolling like it should be. So hopefully, we'll see where it goes, but I'm glad it doesn't bind us either.
Any other comments, questions?
You said breaking ground.
July.
Yeah, what's your timeline to make this a binding, not just a memorandum?
So the process that would need to go through is, it takes a couple of weeks to write the plan. You're gonna first have to do the annexation, then write the plan. Not only do I write the plan, then I get it classified with Department of Revenue as economic development. At the same time, it's still gonna be looking at to see where the housing money is given some direction on that. If they say they won't approve any grant or loan funds, if the TIF is approved prior to their application. So I want to make sure of the timing, because I have a few other ones that I purposely put on hold just to make sure we get that direction from Pierre. So everything goes according to plan. I would say the TIF would then be approved in July. Because we still have to do the public notices. There's always several drafts that go around to the TIF plan. And then obviously the developer's agreement.
I would say at the absolute soonest, it could be approved in late June, just with all of the publication,
Yeah.
all of the statutory steps, just some practicalities. Late June would be the soonest we really could get it done.
I'll note, aside from the tax increment financing, we'd have to look at not just annexation, but a rezoning for the property and the conditional use permit. So there's a number of steps. Some of them have to be one after another, some of them can be done overlapping. Staff will be working on a timeline that allows us to know what the quickest route is. But at the same time, we're gonna be doing the due diligence that we need to make sure that we're not rushing anything, that things are getting done right, the correct way the first time.
And I guess I appreciate the investment in our community. I think it's important as we continue to grow. So
I'm
thank you
excited.
guys. So,
Excited to be here.
Any further comments? 38. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 5, first reading ordinance number 1648, marijuana zoning.
So we don't want to speak to this one too? I
I
saw him running out, yeah, thanks guys. Okay, I'll speak to this in Toby. So this is an ordinance that deals with cannabis regulations. To start, I'll jump us back to last fall when we were looking at, and we did approve an ordinance to allow dispensaries and set regulation for that. At that time, we got questions from not just the commission, but the public as far as what about cannabis cultivation, manufacturing and testing? This only handles dispensaries. What are we gonna do about those three things? And our answers were not now. At that point, we just wanted to get the dispensaries lined up, get the regulation figured out. It was a complicated topic. It was moving very quickly. Every city was kind of trying to figure out things on their own. So at that time, we just dealt with dispensaries. We told the public and as I spoke with some commissioners that at some point in time, we'd come back to determine whether we even wanted to expand into these other areas. And so that's where we're at today. The planning commission has discussed this topic at probably the last 3 meetings or so. Ryan's confirming with me. And this is what they have proposed. And I believe they recommended. Do you know what the vote was on that?
Unanimous.
Unanimous vote. This ordinance would, as far as dispensaries go, currently they're only allowed in the highway business district. This would allow them to also be permitted in the light and heavy manufacturing districts such as dispensaries. And then on testing, cultivation, and manufacturing, 3 other types of cannabis establishments, those would be permitted in the manufacturing districts, light or heavy, but not anywhere else, not in the highway business or any other districts in town here. The distancing regulations persist from what we had last time, 500 foot for residences, 1,000 feet for schools. That would apply to all types of establishments as well. And then the maximum number would be 2 per establishment. So you'd have 2 dispensaries, 2 testing, 2 cultivation, 2 product manufacturing. If there's a company that wants to do multiple of those, they would need to be getting permits for each of them. They can't come in with 1 permit to do all 4 or anything like that.
Can they be in the same building? Or does it have to be 2 separate buildings?
I don't think they can be in the same building, but you can tell I'm not very confident about it. So Ryan or David, do you have any idea?
I have not researched that issue. I can't answer that. I can get you an answer to that, but I don't know.
I can't confirm either, but I've heard that they cannot be in the same.
That's what I heard too.
Okay, we can confirm that before the second reading and get that answer back to you.
So they would have to first meet the zoning ordinance, and then we'd have to determine whether they can, if they do, can they be in the same building? It's a good question.
I think that's a quick summary of what this ordinance would do. At this point, we're just bringing it to the city commission for thoughts, feedback, and you can obviously take action on it if you desire.
I think Ryan's office put a lot of work into this. That's well done. It's been well researched.
So the permit process is the same, that dollar per capita, is that right?
Yeah, as you recall, last time we had 2 ordinances that kind of handle different sides of the issue. This is purely a zoning ordinance that adds these new types of cannabis establishments to certain districts. In this case, the heavy industrial districts.
We did not have them permitted anywhere prior to this.
And I'll answer the question that we get somewhat frequently is we haven't received any permit or applications for dispensaries up to this point at all either. We do have some companies that ask about it, and I expect at some point we'll be getting those requests as well. At this point, we don't have any of those. And of course, we don't have any testing, cultivation, manufacturing because we don't permit those yet in town. That's what this-
It's not our intent to allow that, I guess.
This will.
This would allow it.
Yes.
So then if I'm gonna run a dispensary and I'm gonna run a cultivation operation, I gotta pay $1 per capita for this and $1 per capita for this, correct? And I can't operate on the same name, but I gotta pay for 2 different operations.
I believe so. I have 2 different
Correct.
permits.
It's 2 different permits.
2 different permits, but I can operate under the same name.
Same company. I believe so.
Under the same company. Whether they, you can.
Well,
the
I
same-
could be 1 weed, let's just say, and I could be 1 weed dispensary and 1 weed cultivation.
I believe that,
Okay.
yes. What I don't know is can you be in one building?
The exception I'll give to that is for testing. I think that testing facilities might need to be a separate company because they don't want one company testing and having that oversight for their own operations. But the others, I believe you're correct.
Are you wearing a tie? Yeah.
I guess.
I make a motion, oh, can I?
No, go ahead.
I'll make a
will ask my
motion to approve
question.
first reading ordinance 1648 marijuana zoning.
A second.
I guess I have a concern or question. We're allowing 2, and I understand why we're doing that. But then are we turning around, especially if we can't have it in the same building? Is there enough property out there that we can fill 8, would be 8 different businesses?
Possibly no. I mean, the city is always growing, so there's, the things do change over time. But this sets one kind of requirement, whereas as you're correct to note that another requirement is distance from other areas and zoning as well. So they would have to meet all those requirements to receive a permit. And it's certainly possible there might not be 8 properties out there that fit that.
They have to start somewhere.
That's why I was wondering, why we would be putting 2 in.
Because that's a private development issue.
Okay.
And whether there's space is not something really that the government can and should control. All you can do is permit for it. If somebody wants to buy property and build that property, theoretically they can.
On the testing, again, I'll make a note of that. It's unlikely that we'll be getting 2 testing facilities filled. We might not have any. I did speak to one gentleman who works in that industry, and he said that it's likely that you'll probably will have 3 or 4 of them across the entire state. It's not something that you need a lot for, but if one of them wants to locate in Madison, they certainly could have this.
Any further comments or questions? Hearing any? All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Item number 6, approve referral bonus to city employees for lifeguard referral for the MAC.
I had made a brief announcement about this at the last meeting. As staff were looking at different ways to try to incentivize and find new lifeguards that we can recruit to work for the city this summer. At this point, lifeguards are going to be the most significant challenge we have, and we need to do whatever we can to try to recruit them. One idea that came up from staff was, what if we use, in particular, we'll use our existing lifeguards that are employed at the community center. What if we use them as a way to help recruit more lifeguards, because they are often in contact with that kind of pool of candidates that we're looking for. So what we're requesting here is to have a $200 referral bonus to city employees who would be listed as the referred person on new lifeguard candidates. In order to get that bonus, the new lifeguards would have to work for the city 1 month, at least for 1 month after the pool is open. Pool's opening May 28th. And so by June 28th, if those new lifeguards are still employed and have been working on all those shifts, then the person who referred them to this position would be eligible for a $200 referral bonus. That covers everything. Any questions?
I did ask you on how are we paying them? How do they compensate? Say I refer someone, they go here, 30 days. Is it that $200 paid on regular pay?
Yeah,
So it will be subject to withholding.
yeah, it's compensation, so it would be put onto their payroll, and they might not see $200 coming through to them, but they would have that compensation once the withholding is taken. So thanks, on you to agree with that?
One fell swoop, or are we gonna give it to them over like 20 pay periods?
Just one, just to keep it simple, yeah.
Just wondering, thank you. What if the person they referred quits right away?
Oh, so if I am the referral and I quit before that person's worked in it for a month,
Yeah.
I don't think they would get it either. Then they have to be an employee. So, good question. I hadn't thought of that.
Thank you. That's all I've got.
I'll make a motion to approve the referral bonuses to city employees for lifeguard referrals for the MAC.
Second.
Any further comments or discussion? Not hearing, all in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Item number 7, Gary, review and award bid number 912, chip sealing.
I can start this one, and Ryan and Gary have both been involved, so they can fill in anything that I miss. The city advertised for chip sealing this year, and then we discussed in the previous meeting, we previously had done this work with the county, and they notified us that they have enough projects and works going on that they didn't want to do that for this year. So we decided to contract it out. This is a good year to, I think, experiment a little bit and try this process with an outside contractor. They'd be the ones putting in all the labor, providing materials and getting the work done. This year, the section of town that is scheduled for chip sealing is also where a lot of street projects are going to be coming up. So there's a significant portion that typically would be chip seal that wouldn't need to be since it'll be new street. So this is, like I said, this is a good year to try it out. We had 3 bidders. The low bid was from the Road Guy Construction Company. At a total bid of $112,850. From memory, we budgeted $144,000 for this, so it's certainly underneath that budgeted amount. And staff recommend approval. Brian, Gary, anything to add?
I think that covers it. It's that 112,850 is $1.85 a square yard. What's that number?
Do we know what we paid last year when we did it with the county?
I looked, things that were coded specifically to that improvement, 93,000. But I can't guarantee that everything was coded to that. I started looking through all of our expenditures.
That including employee.
That does not include employee time. No. It would just be material.
It was quite a bit larger volume of road.
Yeah, that was, we average per year 113,000 square yards. That's a pretty good average. Then we hauled the rock in, we averaged 200 hours of hauling rock. And roughly 3 to 5 days of our staff and theirs. So let's see. I think it was like, I think we were roughly 13,000 for our staff that we wouldn't have. We'll still have all the prep work to do throughout the year. We usually, I mean, last year we spent pretty much the whole summer getting ready. And we come in, the average of 3 to 5 days and we get it all covered. So that part will be gone and the rest of it's still up to us to get.
Thank you. Do we know when? By chance, this is gonna take place?
We put on there by the end of August, kind of like that hot weather in August. And we have less this year because of the RD project. So should be good to go on that.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to review and award bid number 912 to the Road Guys Construction of $112,850 for chip sealing, bid number 912?
So, second.
Any further comments or questions?
Similar sized equipment with
I would say
same
so,
finish
yeah.
we're expecting.
Yeah, I would, some of the problems we've had in the past, I would like, this is a good test to see if, they do it every day, so. It's gonna be, I would imagine, a better result. As far as, we do it 3 days a year, so.
Mhm.
County does, of course, more than that. but
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Hearing any? All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 8, approve expanding electrical purchase bid to purchase switches for planned new and expanding businesses.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You have a letter here in front of you explaining the process, the project. We basically just like to purchase off of our own bid that we've already accomplished, so.
I think what's important to note here is we just heard from HME management that they would like to start an assisted living in town. We know that Manitou has a large expansion announced as well. There very well may be other businesses that are looking to locate here or build here or expand here that are already here. And Brad knows more about the timeline, but it's getting more and more difficult to get electrical materials here in a reasonable manner. So since we have money within this year's budget, we'd like to order 2 more switches to help accommodate those expansions that we know are coming.
Yeah, basically, if we don't get these, we can't serve them. So
it's not much really of an option, but we need to bring it back in front of the commission, so,
And these lead times are growing by the week.
yes.
The costs are going up monthly.
These aren't the submersible ones though, right? These are straight ones.
So, and we've got 3 of those to put in. Unfortunately, the switches that we're gonna harvest from that replacement are type 11s and the type 9s. So that's the reason otherwise we'd had some spares. But we're gonna have spare type 11s, but we won't have any spare type 9s from that project. So
Gonna grow, we're gonna have to pay to grow a little bit. I mean, that's just for economic development.
and then, yeah, and you
And
know,
not having
thinking,
spares, like Brad just said.
yeah, we have, this will leave us with 1 spare when we're all said and done with everything that we've got, and that's buys us a little time, but if something comes along, you know, more than one thing comes along that needs a switch, then we're gonna be back in the time frame. And I'll tell you right now, today, sitting here, I will almost guarantee that sometime in the next 16 months or so, we're gonna have somebody come in and want something we aren't gonna be able to get just because of the supply line difficulties. It's just, there's nothing we can do about it, but we try to plan out as far as we can, but you can't get ahead of some of these things because we don't know about it till the last minute.
With this addition on, where we at for total amount project
On the total on
equipment?
on purchases.
Yeah.
Well, on that budget, there was $400,000 budget. We spent roughly 250 on switches. We have another 150 left in that budget to procure these $58,000 worth of switches, almost 59.
And that was the set, correct, Brad?
Yes, that's for the fair.
Or the-
Have a motion to approve the expanding electrical purchase bid to purchase switches for planned new and expanding businesses.
So move.
Second.
Any further comments? Hearing any, all in favor, signify by aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing that in front of us. Number 9, discuss the purchase of 2022 street equipment.
Gary gets to be in the hot seat 2 times tonight. Congrats, Mary. I'll start this one a little bit. Gary came to me last weekend with questions on how to proceed with some of the purchases that were approved in this year's budget. A couple of issues we have is 1, pricing is only going up each day on equipment. And then 2, again, timelines can be complicated on getting some of these in. So before you, I wrote a brief memo outlining what those items were. There were blanks in the actuals for the pickup. I have those now. Pickup that was ordered is $36,035, 36035. And then the second pickup, we don't have an up-to-date one on because we can't get anything in this year anyway. So that's just not applicable, not available. We have ordered and received the plow at less than $1,000 over budget. And then we've also ordered and will have received a pickup at a little under $1,000 under budget. So the 2 items that we have ordered average out to being slightly under budget as well. The items that are more difficult to get would be the motor grader and then the second pickup. The motor grader is also about $22,000 over budget. We can't get that till 2023. The payloader is about $30,000 over budget. We think we can get that by the end of 22. So Gary came to me, not just with the problem, but I appreciate he had some solutions as well. So he said that 3 things that we could do without this year be the second pickup, the standard chassis, the dump truck box. And so he's comfortable pushing those items off to a future budget. However, the problem still remains that we could order these items today and not get them until next year. And so we need to know that one way or another, we're gonna be making orders today that we can pay for next year. So 2 ways we can do that. 1, you can just commit to having it in next year's budget, Unfortunately, you can't officially commit that because you can't commit any future commission to that until we approve the budget. But we could have some discussions that it's our intention to be ordering that this year so we can actually get it at some point. Secondly, we can take money from this year's budget and put it into a reserve fund so that we are using this year's funds and we know that we have those available for next year once it gets here. The second one's the option that is preferred by staff and recommended by staff. We would also then push off the sander chassis and dump truck box to next year as items that we can live without for another year. And then the payloader is something that we believe we can get it this year if we order right away. So that could be done with this year's budget. If we order that and we find out that we can't get it until 2023, at the end of this year, we'd also be looking at putting some funds into reserve for that to make sure it gets paid for. One of these items was even higher when you looked a month ago or something, but came
Yeah,
down quite a bit.
the payloader came down about 1,000. Why?
Yeah. The numbers are changing every day. Gary, anything you'd add?
Just that motor grader just keeps going up and up, so I just kind of want to make a decision on that and get that locked in. So either way, we won't see it till probably early next year, maybe even in the spring. But that's just how far out they are. The payloader itself, I think they thought they could probably need by the end of this year, so we have it for this winter. So,
Do we have to put a percentage down?
they didn't say that, but I would imagine we would, yes.
I like the option of ordering them right now and putting a reserve account aside, move the money to it. What about the overage, the 8,000 in overage? Do we have money somewhere we can cover that?
I imagine on the back end when we go to sell or trade. So put two words,
Yeah, we'll have that.
could eat into that difference.
That payloader that we're replacing, I saw on an auction site, was identical to what we have and is around that 45,000 range. So there's some money there to get back. So. And then that,
I didn't know
We,
we were gonna sell it.
yeah, that one will sell. I'm still up in the air on one or two motor graders. It's, you know, if we have a nice year like we've had, one is plenty, but if you get those snowstorms one after another, when you gotta be scraping, that's where you get into trouble. So. Predict the future on the snowfall, I guess I'd have it. I'm always wrong on that. I should be a meteorologist.
So the motor grader, if we do end up putting it in a reserve, then would we just next year's budget, budget the excess that we don't have in reserve? Would we put the whole amount in the reserve?
I defer to Sonia, see what her preference would be.
I think you could do that. If you didn't end up using it for some reason, you can always motion or choose to move it back out of reserve.
Are you all right with us establishing these reserves?
I think that's fine. No, I'm knowing that how far things are out for getting them, I think it makes common sense.
Yeah, I like it.
We aren't legally binding another commission, correct, by doing it that way?
No, just know that we're ordering it, so when it gets here, we'll have to pay for it. Sure.
So we're gonna purchase the motor grader and the payloaders, and we're gonna move the money to reserves.
I think that's reasonable, correct. I guess a question for Gary on the pickup, is that something we need to be ordering as well? Which we would be putting money reserves for that as well?
Well, I think when it's all said and done, we'll have some moving around with our pickups. I mean, we can look at that again. So we could just hold up on that until.
Well,
Budget time for next year. We'll see what we get in. And we're kind of talking about trading around and moving some pickups into the parks and from the light plant to us. And we might be able to.
I would like to see pickups for your department because we had that outside contractor coming in to do capital improvement planning, and that was one thing they noticed was equipment needs to be updated. Mike in our parks department classifies his pickups by the ones he trusts to take out of town or not. So I think there's probably some need for new pickups there. The question that I have for the commission is do you want to put funds in a reserve for that as well, or just get it ordered and plan to pay for it next year? Either way, we're paying for it next year. I'd like to see some funds for it.
We budgeted for all of this stuff this year.
We did, yeah.
Okay, so we need to. I would like to see us purchase the pickup as well. to have the second pickup. So now it's the motor grader, the payloader, the pickup, and then the rest of it will hold on.
Well, and I would say the motor grader and the pickup and the payloader, if it comes into the year and we were not getting it, we might need to do that. We'll do that as a separate action. So for the reserves, we just be looking for the motor grader and the pickup.
Are we still able to get on the fleet pickup? Or is that closed?
It's closed for this year.
That might change things a little bit. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So we're not able to order one through that right now?
As far as I know, the South Dakota state bid fleet, they pulled that from consideration because they can't fulfill it anymore.
Based on
Until they get a new one for next year, and that'll come out sometime probably November.
all fleet builds have been stopped essentially. Everything's retail.
Okay. Well, so we're not even able to order a pickup now, then would you say that's true here?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay, now I wouldn't worry about that right now, and we can stick to the motor grader, that is a higher priority item anyway. And we'll address the rest as we get to it.
So is that the sander chassis or the dump truck box? Are we gonna have availability concern with that once we do want that, or?
Yeah, I would imagine eventually, we're gonna go through this for probably a few years just to get everything caught back up again. But
So we can't get the pickup, then why not buy the sander chassis and the dump truck box?
yeah, that's an idea. I can look into that.
We can get on the fleet bid, then why don't we get those taken care of?
So you keeping track of this motion looks like?
I think I've got it.
Well, I mean, we do have funds budgeted. Really, we're looking for direction here, and I think the main motion would be that motor grader into the reserve, because that is the largest one, and it's a time critical one based on getting it ordered and how long does it take to get here.
Can we put the money, can we take them all, put them in reserve for now, and then if obviously the money's sitting there, we can, if we can get them now, great, if not, we've still got it sitting there.
suppose
I
we-
think you can make that
Yeah.
motion.
I'm gonna make the motion to move the motor grader, the sander chassis, and the dump truck box over to a reserve account to make sure that we get those purchased this year.
Let's reserve this year.
Yeah, reserve this year.
You want to reserve that one pickup too?
Well, no, I don't, because we can't get in the fleet bid.
Oh, we could next year, but if we have reserve.
What happens if the price is $10,000?
No, then we only put 10 grand in the budget.
Okay, I'll move the pickup in with it as well.
In the end, the budget amounts is what you'd be moving to reserve. So for
Well,
instance.
we're gonna move budgeted amounts over to
Yeah.
reserve for the motor grader, the pickup, the sander chassis, and the dump truck box. To be ordered hopefully this year, and we'll see what we get.
See what we do, yeah.
Second. Was a motion, right? You bet.
Where did we order the pickup at? You won't know who's got the bid till next year.
Biggest thing I just wanted to, is these prices are just higher. I just want to bring that to everybody's attention.
Any further comments, discussion, question?
Locking them in now as much as we can. They're only to keep climbing.
Not hearing any, all in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Thanks, Gary.
Yep, thank you, Gary. Okay, public comment. Jim Casanova, 9th road job.
Commissioner, I heard rumors that you city took away the bid from Winters. Is that true?
Yeah, we found out that our financing packet had some issues, and so there were some deadlines from the state as that last Friday, and so we had to work quickly, and the end result was Winter being, the agreement ceased from going forward because they didn't have a signed contract. We do intend on bidding that project back out to be compliant.
But you know, you gotta look at, they were 500,000 under the other bidder, and you think they're gonna bid the same way? No.
I agree with you. I don't think they will, unfortunately, but in order for
Well,
us
whose
to,
fault is it? The city or the engineer you had out who falls?
I guess we'll have to look at that a little bit. I'm not prepared to present any information on that today. I will say that in order for us to be eligible for the grants that are coming and get the financing that we need to be able to be in full compliance with what the state requires.
Well, I've been waiting. Look, the taxpayers on 9th Street been waiting for 36 years for improvement on drainage, and now we're reject the bid. That don't seem right. I can't see why you did it that way. Whose fault is it?
Yeah, I will say that staff are frustrated as well. We'd love to see the project move forward as originally planned. But in order to best use the taxpayers' dollars, we feel that substantial grant funds, we're thinking around $1 million, would reduce the project cost enough to warrant the delay.
Do you think it still get accomplished this year?
We hope to get some of it accomplished this year. I don't know that the whole project will get done.
But it should be, it'll go $10, I would think.
Well, it is going to take time to rebid the project.
Well,
It's a good question. It's a very important update. Unfortunately, we were just working through this at the end of last week and certainly didn't have anything prepared in time to put it on the agenda. But there will need to be an update to the commission and to the full public in the near future.
the winners, what they have to say when they took it away from them.
I'm not going to comment on
Yeah,
conversation.
there's a lot of money difference. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of taxpayers' money right there. $500,000 is quite their money.
The million's bigger.
Huh?
A million's bigger,
Yeah, and it's gonna cost you a lot more when they bid it again.
but the $1 million of grant funding they're missing out is a big deal.
Well, I hope you guys don't start dragging your feet before you. I mean, this is a dry year, the years should do it.
We can agree on that.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Johnson.
Commissioners, I've got a little different information than what the administrator's putting out. You guys budgeted 9th Street and Union. You put that in your budget for $3.5 million. Your bids come in at 2.9. Now, the reason this project's getting held up is because SRF money. And your consultant engineer didn't do what he was supposed to do.
Can I ask where you're getting information? Just so I can try to clarify.
Not Ryan, the engineering department. I was up there and talked to them today.
Not Ryan?
No, Ryan was gone today.
Okay. You're correct. We do have the money budgeted, but the plan has always been to finance that. And financing through SRF is gonna be much more favorable terms than financing. through the
That,
market.
I don't doubt that a bit. But we knew we were gonna do this project last year.
Yep.
And we had Union scheduled and for a deficient plan, the city decided not to do that. So then we come and we think a better plan is 9th Street. Now, when I hire an engineering firm, a consultant, I would think they'd know what they're doing. This isn't their first rodeo. I know this for a fact. And if we had a competent engineering firm that was laying this project out, we wouldn't be in this jam. And for me, I've been putting up with this project for 37 years. When it rains 1.5 inches, I get water within 25 feet of my house. And I'm disappointed. I'm irritated. I'm tired of the excuses. I don't know. Houston's not the top of the line for engineering firms.
I think you'd be incorrect if you think that staff aren't frustrated about this as well.
I didn't say anything about your engineering department. I'm
I'm saying
well
all of
pleased with
us.
the engineering
All of
department.
us, the commission, we all would love to see this project move forward just as planned.
But I don't
If you're
understand.
looking for me to throw somebody under the bus tonight.
I'm not looking for that. Don't put me in that category. I'm here as a taxpayer wondering why the financing was not done, why that wasn't part of the project at 3.5. What I'm doing, I'm not pointing a finger at Ryan or the engineering. I'm pointing a finger at you.
That's fine.
You know?
I can take that. My point is I can't give you the answers you want tonight because this all just happened.
Well, what answers do I want tonight?
You want to know whose fault this is and what we're gonna do about it, right?
I don't care whose fault it is. I want to know, I want the project done.
We can agree on that.
So I guess what I'm here is what are we going to do to get the project done?
And I can respond to you now saying that this all just happened on Friday. We're doing the best we can,
You-
but we don't have all the answers today.
Maybe I'm dumb. I'm not getting to the point here that if you knew you were going to do SRF funding, why wasn't that done a year ago? I don't understand this. You don't go buy a new car and then decide I gotta finance it.
And there's a lot of steps that go into that, and I just can't give you the answer you're looking for right now.
Well, I don't know. I'm disappointed. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Announcements.
We just have two. The combined municipal and school board election is next Tuesday, and the next commission meeting will be April 18th.
We have no exec session. Do I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. Second. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carried. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Tomorrow.